To make the Rotel cheesy queso sauce, we need to start with some cashews. You don't need to worry about soaking those overnight or even for a couple hours. Just put them right into the blender. They'll be fine. We also need to add some nutritional yeast flakes, some cornstarch, some onion and garlic powder, salt, lemon juice, and coriander, and the pimentos. I like to buy a whole big can of pimentos, and then I will freeze them in half-cup portions so that I can use them in my recipes. Most of my recipes call for a half a cup. So this is a half a cup of pimentos that I have frozen and thawed. You don't really have to thaw them. You can just dump them right in if you want. The ingredient to this recipe is vegan Parmesan cheese. I only add about 3 tablespoons to give a little bit of a cheesy flavor. So I'm going to add about 3 tablespoons of the Parmesan cheese. And some water. And we're only going to use about half of our water here. We'll use the rest of the water to clean out the blender later. And then we are going to blend that till it's smooth. This is going to take a couple minutes to blend, so we're going to cut here and we will come back in a minute. One thing I like to do to check and make sure that my cashew sauce is creamy enough is I stick a spoon in there, and if I look at the back of the spoon and I see chunks like that, then I know I need to blend a little bit longer. So let's let it go for a few more minutes. Spoon's wet. Yeah, that's much better. Let's go ahead and then I'm going to put the rest of the water. Now the recipe called for 2.5 cups. That was 2 cups. So I'm going to put the rest of the water in here. And then I'm going to just blend this one more time real quick. And then I'll clean out all the rest of the blender. There we go. I'm going to cook this over the stove until it's thick. Okay, you can see it's starting to boil. Once it starts to boil, you want it to boil for about a minute so you can cook that cornstarch and make sure that it doesn't have a pasty taste to it. So let's let that keep going. Okay, that looks great. Let's go ahead and add our Rotel tomatoes. This is what makes it spicy. I'll add about 1/3 to half a can of the Rotel tomatoes. If you like it super spicy, you can go ahead and add the whole can. We like to add the juice and all. That makes it a nice cheese sauce. So we're going to stir that together. And there you have your beautiful cheesy queso sauce. That's a great cheesy sauce. I'm going to go ahead and put that away for now, and I'll show you how to put it all together for our party. The next recipe I want to show you is the spicy pepper jack block cheese, and this one we're going to show you 3 different ways to serve. But first, to get it made, we are going to need to put most of our ingredients into the blender, and then we'll put some into a pan. Before you get started, you're going to want to line a container with plastic wrap like this. It can be whatever shape container you want. I'm going to take this out of here and cut it into cubes. So this is the container I chose, but you can do anything you like. Into the blender, we're going to add about half of our milk. We'll save the rest for the pan later. And into that, we want to add some nutritional yeast flakes, which I told you about in the earlier recipe. And then we want to add some onion and garlic powder, some chickpea flour, lemon juice, some tapioca starch or cornstarch, whichever one you have, a little bit of salt, and then some refined coconut oil. All that is going to get blended up, but while we're blending that, I want to grab our pan and we're going to add the other half of our milk. And our agar powder. Now this agar powder can be ordered online. Occasionally it can be found in the Asian aisle of your grocery store or at an Asian grocery store. We're going to stir that together and we are going to cook this over medium heat until it starts to bubble. And then we're going to add it to our blended mixture. So let's do that. And while that's cooking, I'm going to blend this up. Now you don't want to leave that alone too long, so I'm going to keep stirring it. We are going to add our jalapenos, diced, and some red pepper flakes. The agar is starting to boil. We want to give it about a minute. Make sure it's all nice and hot. Okay, we're going to add our agar to the mixture in the blender. Make sure we get all of it. I'm just going to put the lid back on. I'm going to give that a quick pulse. So our mixture is all blended up. We just need to add that to our lined container. And we will pour it in. And this is going to thicken up and make a nice block cheese. It looks so nice and cheesy. We're going to put this in the refrigerator to chill and harden up. Then I'll show you how to serve that 3 different ways. This last recipe I want to show you is the cheese log that's going to be covered in pecans and cranberries. So the first thing I need to do is chop up my pecans and my cranberries in the food processor. I went ahead and toasted my pecans because they're so much better that way. And I'm going to put those into the food processor along with some cranberries. I want about the same amount of pecans as cranberries, and for this recipe, about 3/4 cup of each. It's better sometimes if you pulse instead of blend straight away, because pulsing will chop as opposed to blending will maybe turn it into a butter of some kind. All right, that looks great. We are going to put that into a dish. I'm going to put that onto a flat dish because what I want to do is roll my log into it later, so it'll be easier to do on a flat dish. Now, since this is already dirty, I'm going to go ahead and mix the rest of the ingredients up in here, and this will make our cheese log. And don't worry about the stuff inside because we want to mix some cranberries and pecans into the log anyway, so this will make it great. The base of this cheese log is tofu. So I have taken extra firm tofu. I'm not using a whole block, I'm using about 1/2 block, but I wrapped it in a towel and left it sit for an hour or so. And you'll see that this tofu is very dry, and that's the way you want it. If it's too moist, then your tofu is going to make your cheese too soft. All right, to the tofu, we're going to add some refined coconut oil. This is what helps it to firm up also. I need lemon juice. Some vinegar. You can use apple cider vinegar or white vinegar. We are going to add some olive oil. Salt. Some non-dairy milk, unsweetened. And then for some flavor, we're going to add some garlic minced and some ginger powder. And one last ingredient is the light miso paste. I don't buy miso for anything except for my cheese recipes, so I buy it in this little package. It makes it great because you can keep it for months in the refrigerator, and you can just squeeze in as much as you need. So today we need about 1 tablespoon. Okay, we're going to process this. This time we want to process it until it's really, really smooth. And see, it's getting nice and smooth. We want to keep blending it. We want it to get kind of shiny. When it's shiny, we know it's done, okay? So let's give it a check. Ooh, it's looking good, but I don't think it's quite ready yet, okay? See how smooth it is? We want it to get a little bit smoother than that, all right? This does take several minutes, probably 5 minutes or so, so don't worry about that. Just let it blend. All right, that looks great. See how nice and shiny that looks? We're gonna call that done. We're just going to put this into a lined dish and let it firm up in the refrigerator for several hours before we shape it into a log. Look how nice and creamy that looks. This is gonna make a beautiful cheese log. Everybody's gonna be very impressed with your vegan cheese skills, I promise you that. We're gonna put that in the refrigerator for a little while and before we can shape it into our log. It's been several hours and it's time to shape my cheese log into a log. It's set up nicely. It's set up nice and firm. I'm gonna get a fresh sheet of plastic wrap to kind of shape this. And once we get it shaped into our log shape, we're gonna roll it into these nuts and cranberries. So we're gonna roll this. Just use the plastic wrap to keep your hands kind of clean. And get rid of that one. And there you go. There's your log shape. Pull it off. And then we can take it and roll it into our pecans and cranberries. Now this is going to give it some great flavor and make it not just like a plain cheese. Just keep pressing it together and pressing it into these nuts. Doesn't this look great? I'm going to wash my hands real quick. I'm going to put this on a plate with some crackers and we'll give it a taste test. Now I need to finish up my pepper jack cheese appetizers. Now you could serve this with crackers and cheese, or you can serve it on your charcuterie board. I have a friend who says it's not a party unless you have an appetizer on a toothpick. So that's what we're going to make with this today. It's super easy. I'm going to cut this into small cubes. And I want these cubes to be kind of pretty, so I'm not going to use the outside edges. I'll use those for something else later. And I'm going to make these into small cubes. I'll also make a few to show you real quick. So I really meant to get some holiday toothpicks and I forgot, so I'm disappointed that I have to use just regular toothpicks. But if you want to order on Amazon, you can get these cute little holiday themed toothpicks, whether you want Thanksgiving or Christmas. So there's only two things you need to put on this toothpick. You've got some sort of fruit and some sort of cheese. And we're using our pepper jack cheese and we're going to use grapes today. You could use blueberries, you could use strawberries. So you start with your grape on your toothpick and put your cheese on the bottom. Now I know this looks, stupid easy and you know, how can it be good? But trust me, this appetizer is always the first to go. It's really easy to make. People know what they're getting. It's fairly healthy. And I promise you, it will be a hit at your party. So I'm going to make a few of these up, and then we'll put our table together. So all of our cheesy appetizers are all done, and don't they look cheesy? We have our cheese log, we have our easy toothpick appetizers with pepper jack cheese and grapes, and then we also have our Rotel queso dip. Nobody's going to complain about this party. So let's do some taste testing. So I'm going to start off with the cheesy queso dip. It's so satisfying, very cheesy, has that salty crunch from the chips. Everybody's going to love this one, I can promise you that. Another way to serve this cheesy sauce is in one of these small crock pots. It's a great way to keep it hot at the party. If you're going to leave the food out for a little bit of time, the cheesy sauce is really good hot. And then we got a little fancy with toothpicks because, you know, who doesn't want to be fancy sometimes? So easy, so simple, but what a great appetizer. It's healthy, it's a little spicy, it's great. And the last one we want to try is our cheese log. So let's clean this off a little bit so you have some space. Doesn't it look great? Let's cut into this. Oh yeah. It's such a great cheesy texture. It's kind of like a firm goat cheese. It's so good. See, the pecans and the cranberries add a little extra flavor, so you're not really noticing that it's not a real cheese. I know these cheesy appetizers and snacks are going to be a hit at your party, but if you need some different kind of appetizers, then check out this video here for some more vegan appetizer recipes.